Welcome, everyone, to Elevate with V. So excited to be here for another episode. As you heard in the intro, this podcast was inspired by my own journey and as a way to express gratitude to those beautiful souls that have helped and inspired me during my journey. I can't wait to introduce my guest today, Jikara Starita. Jikara is a spiritual healing facilitator, meditation teacher, shamanic practitioner who is focused on weaving different aspects of spiritual healing techniques. Her mission is to empower people to heal their subconscious beliefs so that they can start living their full potential in this lifetime. With spiritual response therapy, she can clear the Akashic records of her clients from programs from this and other lifetimes that can be affecting them in real time. She also facilitates Medipainting Sessions to help her clients heal their sacral centers, their source of power and intuition. She is also a healing circle facilitator. She provides collective healings and clearings to help people deepen their healing journeys by disconnecting them from collective energies and programs. As you can all see and you can listen, that Jakar is incredibly gifted, and we will be digging into some of these things today. But also know that all of this information will be posted in the descriptions everywhere that this show gets posted. So I want to share my connection with Jakara. So I actually found her through a YouTube channel of Mary Jo, of Soulful Revolution. And she was giving a shout out to her. She's someone that I've been tuning into for a while, and they were co creating a life together. And I felt very, very drawn to Jakara's energy and content and totally followed her on her channel. So I've had many opportunities to tune in live to a variety of sessions that she's done on social media channels. And they have offered me both healing and information on just her gifts, as well as many different modalities that I'm becoming more aware of. And I just want to share that information with all of you. And one of the things that I wanted to definitely take time to mention is some of the things that I love about you, Jakara, is that you're just so genuine and authentic and warm. And you are a very gentle soul, but you're just very powerful. Like I can just feel like your strength and your confidence and your presence. And I also love that you're always investing in yourself and your own growth. And I can really, like, every time I tune into it, like I just feel your heart and your mission and wanting to share your gifts and making a difference. So thank you for joining me today. And with that, welcome, Jakara.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I feel so honored to be here and to be part of this beautiful journey that you're embarking with your podcast, and I'm so excited and just honored to be part of your journey and to be able to serve in a way that is impactful for you, and it means so much to hear the feedback from people when they come back, and they say, hey, seeing this or this thing that you did or this thing that you said really helped me shape this part of me or resonated in a specific situation, or these little things that really shift perspectives or shift energies for people and help them is really the reason why I do what I do. And I'm just so grateful to be part of this mission. It's a planetary mission that we're in together, and to shift perspectives, to shift energies, to shift, just in general, just the outcome of what humanity can achieve eventually. So thanks.
I love that, Jakar. I'm so excited to have you today. So, as you know, the show is basically highlighting healing journeys and how we've kind of navigated through some of these storms to get to these silver linings of where we're sitting today. So, I kind of wanted to take you back a little bit to where your journey really started. Like, what were the events that happened that led you into getting into your kind of healing journey, if you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. So, well, one thing that I would like to say is that I feel the journey started even before I was born, right? So, but because the perspective that I have now versus the perspective that I had, I want to say even 5 years ago, has shifted. I've realized that I've chosen this path of mine to be able to learn certain lessons and integrate these lessons at the soul level for myself. And the first episode, I would say, in this lifetime for me, that really ignited so much energetic charge was when I was 6 years old, and my mother went through a really traumatic event where her lungs basically collapsed, and she couldn't really breathe, and we basically had to rush into the hospital, and I didn't know what was happening. My mom and my dad were divorced, and I was really scared, and I was feeling really alone at the moment because we rushed into the hospital. They took her in, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I called a family friend, and they took me back to the apartment that we lived in, and I was used to staying by myself, so it wasn't a big deal. And I sat there, I remember just sitting on the floor, with my back against the wall inside my bedroom, just looking up to the sky, and asking, someone, what's gonna happen, like what's gonna happen with me. And I didn't get any answers at that moment, but I did, um, and later on I'll explain. But I did receive a message from my own mother. My mother did appear to me, and in spirit. She appeared to me in spirit, and she told me that everything was gonna be okay. And I remember her wearing this beautiful like dress that she used to wear, and I remember even hearing the sound of the of the material, just like the sound of the material as she was basically walking, and she was there and present. And that was really impactful for me because I never really experienced anything like this in my life. Seeing a spiritual representation of a being, basically shown. And at that moment, was actually the moment that she was proclaimed dead, at the table, because they rushed her into a last minute operation. They were trying to revive her lungs and everything. I don't really know what exactly the details, but all I know is that they were trying to keep her alive, and she was proclaimed dead at that moment. And that's the moment that she came to me. And later on she came back. She's still alive now. Later on she came back,
Yes.
but she did come to me in spirit, and that was really a huge. I could never, I could never forget this experience, right? Like, this was something that just shifted my perspective of what it is to be here, right? Like, there is like this other essence of people that is present that we can connect to, right? And if we want to. So fast forward, you know, later down the road, her and I did not have like the best relationship, but she was struggling, and I'm originally from South America, from Venezuela, and over there, it's you don't really have access to many support systems from the government, or really no one. So you really have to, like, a lot of women who are single mothers, they have to really, or divorced mothers, they have to really work so hard to put food on the table and make sure that their children are safe. And so she was struggling with a lot. And later down the road, I realized that was the thing. But with all of that traumatic programming that happened, right, like all that trauma that was basically being ignited in my being, was basically teaching me some lessons at that moment. I didn't know that at the time. I can say that now, but at the time I was just going through it, right? You're going through that experience. Then later down the road, I experienced another episode that was very traumatic for me, which I became pregnant, and I had an abortion. And I was 17. I was about to graduate from high school, and I was really scared, and I felt I wasn't ready to have a child. So I decided to move forward with the abortion. I didn't tell my mother at the time. And then also the guy that I was with at the time, he wasn't really ready, and he told me I'm not going to show up. And I didn't, because of my own trauma, I felt like that was something that was not what I wanted for my children. Like I wanted a family, like mom and dad at home, because that's what I wanted growing up. So that was a big like a big trauma that like kind of I went into this, what they call this dark night of the soul, where I went into this really deep dark place, and I was feeling lost, and I was trying to figure out who I was and what I was, and what exactly am I doing here on this planet? Like why do I even, why does it even matter to be here alive, right? Like you're going through this really deep questioning, right, of who am I, why am I here, what is my purpose, like why is this, all this stuff happening, like this is overwhelming, right? And I was going through this whole thing. And again, when you're in this deep programming and you're not aware, you're making decisions based on this deep programming, where, especially when you're coming from trauma, you make decisions based out of the trauma response that you've experienced from the past. You're kind of operating from that wound. So that's basically what I did my entire life up until my 30s. And then on my 30s, there was another moment where I got married. I got married to what I thought was my twin flame. I thought he was my twin flame because I was always so obsessed with him. Like we met when we were kids, and I loved him so much, and I just couldn't stop thinking about him for all these years, right? And so he came into my life. The universe brought him to my life, and then we decided to get married, and that did not go very well. It ended up in domestic violence. It was just very just interesting. However, he was a big teacher for me, and I know that he was a pivotal point in my path, in my experience, because he himself has done some work on his own. Even though he still had a lot of trauma, and a lot of his response was trauma. And of course, we were kind of bonding from that trauma, both of us, right? That was trauma bond that we were doing. And however, he was in this path of seeking answers, and he was finding answers. He started practicing Reiki on himself, and he was really seeking information about um, uh, outside of the scope of things in Venezuela, because in Venezuela we're it's mainly Catholic. It's a mainly Catholic country, and so when you don't find answers within the Bible, or maybe within the religion, then you start looking outside. So he was looking into the Eastern traditions and Buddhism and Hinduism, and he was studying the chakras, and he brought that into my energy field by just sharing the stuff that he was finding out. And I just kind of got ignited with that. And I remember many times spending time with him and getting these really strange activations and visions that I never experienced before. Like I was starting to see how things were coming together, and I would see these messages that would come through, and I never really understood what they were at the moment, but it just felt like they were important for me to remember. And so I feel like in a way, even though things didn't go well with him, in the 3D, right? Like we weren't really meant to be together, and it ended up in domestic violence, and it was really bad. He was dealing with mental health, and with a lot of mental health issues, and God bless him, he really was struggling, and I was too. We were both struggling. So, but something shifted for me. So once I left that situation and I said no more, right? I went into this journey of just listening to my inner self. And that, I would say, and I know I kind of am giving you a long answer, but I kind of wanted you to see the timeline of what's happened and how it was coming from the unconscious, and how I was activating into the conscious. I was activating into consciousness. And even though I was guided, and I feel that I was always guided, even at the unconscious, I was guided through all this journey. Really, that pivotal point was when I left him, and I moved out, and I moved in by myself, and I ended up in Clearwater, Florida, in a small, tiny studio apartment, which for the first time I was able to really feel safe, after all this turmoil. And and also trying to figure out, okay, who am I? Again, I'm asking these questions. Who am I? And what am I, why are these things happening? And let me take a look at myself for a minute. Let me take a look at myself and the things that have happened, and, and start being brutally honest with myself, right? Like, that was the biggest element that I feel really shifted things for me, was being honest with myself, brutally honest, and I started listening to that inner voice that was activated with my ex, which was, I feel like he just had some energy. Again, he did Reiki on himself, so I think that he was already kind of activating some things within him, and I in turn received some of that activation, just by being in his presence. So this voice started getting stronger and stronger, and started telling, because at the time I was still going to church, and I was trying to find answers, and I kept going to churches to try to find answers at churches, because I thought, well, this is the spiritual place, so I should be going here. But I wasn't finding the answers there. I wasn't finding that place of really feeling fulfilled in here. But I still was getting messages that were not necessarily coming from the people there, but just being in the presence of a temple, or being in a temple, that in itself was activating me in some shape or form. So then I realized that I didn't really need the actual organization per se. I decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself from this and start going back to nature. So I just started going to nature, just going to the park, or to the beach. Thankfully, I was close to the beach. So, and I said, this is my temple, and I started realizing that that was my temple. So that's how I got activated. It was really a series of situations that got me to the point where I reunited with the soul, because I realized now that my ex, he was really a soul. He had a sole purpose of activating me. Unfortunate, it had to be in a very difficult way, but he was there to activate me, and I'm grateful. Now I'm eternally grateful to him because of that, because he created that space for me to start questioning even deeper, going down to the very deep dark parts of myself, to start questioning, who am I, and what am I supposed to be doing here? Because again, being in a, for anyone who's been through domestic violence, that you feel very lost, in that situation. You feel very lost. You feel like up is down and down is up, and you don't even know what's happening. So it feels very overwhelming. And so you have to find ways to ground yourself, into who you are. And you have to continue doing that inner work in order for you to get there. But I don't want to get too much into that. But that was basically the essence of, like, just the series of events that got me to the place where I was finally listening to my inner voice, and finally following also whatever was being suggested to me, so I could do whatever was for my highest good.
Wow. I mean, that is quite a journey, Jakara. Wow, wow, wow. I love you shared so much, incredible information in terms of your journey. And, I think just for the listeners to kind of help them out, I think, for example, we use the word dark night of the soul. I know that that's, something that we use a lot, like in the spiritual world. And people are like, well, what is that? What does that mean? And, so I would love for you to, if you don't mind, just kind of sharing a little bit more about like what that is, because I think it combines what you were already talking about, which is like really just listening to that inner voice, which connects to things like listening to into your intuition and your clair. So if you don't mind just sharing that, and then we'll kind of come back to jump back into more of the stuff you shared.
Yeah, so the dark night of the soul, I'll give you the perspective, the Jakara's perspective, which is from my own experience. It's basically this time of, you may feel a little lost in your experience here on this earth, right? So you're living your life, and then suddenly there's a really heavy situation that happens in your life. It could be you lose your job, or you get a divorce, or maybe you just lose somebody that you loved, and it kind of takes you to this spiraling place of darkness, where you're feeling lost and you're also feeling sometimes a little bit of despair because you don't understand why all of this stuff is happening, and the pain of the experience is so overwhelming that you're no longer able to think. Sometimes you can't even think straight. So the idea of the dark night of the soul is to is to bring you back into a space of neutrality, to bring you back into a space of listening, to bring you back into a space of understanding. And when we're so the thing that I can recommend, if you're someone who's going through, basically you're listening to this podcast right now and you're thinking, I am that person, I'm going through a rough time right now, what I want to suggest to you, I'm speaking to you, the person who's struggling right now, and you are desperate to find light at the end of the tunnel. The first thing that I want to tell you is that the light will come, that you just got to continue walking down that path, and the light will come because it's going to get there. The second thing that I want to say is that you want to make sure that you allow yourself to stay grounded in who you truly are. So you want to start asking those questions. Who am I? And allow yourself, your inner self, to answer that. And maybe it's a little hard for you to do so on your own. Maybe you can't do that just by just listening to yourself. The next best thing to do is to ask that question and write down whatever comes out on a piece of paper or on your journal. If you do these two things, you'll be able to get yourself grounded and continue having faith. The third thing that I would recommend is that you continue listening to things like this, to other people who have gone through this, so you can find that place of solace in your heart, knowing that you have that, finding that faith. Maybe sometimes you feel like you're out of faith and you are out of belief. Going back to those places that are going to nourish your soul, that are going to give you that space of almost like you're going to feed yourself, so that way you can feel better again and then continue in that journey. And I feel like if you do that, and that's one of the things that I did that for myself. I listened to podcasts. I was meditating. I was doing all these different things to help me. I was listening to meditation music. I was shifting things so I could calm my nervous system, so I could calm myself and go back into where exactly am I and who am I outside of all these things. Because I am here to tell you that you are not any of those experiences, though you are that soul or that being that is going through this journey, through that experience, where you are not those things. So I feel like sometimes when you're going through the dark night of the soul, it's kind of hard to separate yourself from that, because it's so dense. It's so dense, it's so heavy that it's hard for you to separate. So you kind of go into that space of, oh, this is what I am, but that's not what you are. You are the one witnessing what's happening. And so you'll know that you're getting out of that experience once you start seeing things from an outsider's perspective, looking in. Once you start shifting your perspective and you start noticing that you're finding that little silver linings, and you're finding things to be grateful for, and you're finding the little blessings, and you're finding all these, then that's when the lights, right? You're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And it can take as long as you need it to be. And that's another thing that I would say for someone who's listening to this and you're probably wondering, I'm going through this, how long is this going to take? It can take 1 month, it can take 2 months, it can take a year, it can take a long time, or it can take a short period of time, depending on what you, because sometimes we sign up for this, right? Whatever you signed up for on this lifetime, that's the amount of time that you're going to go through. So you want to make sure that you're nourishing yourself as much as possible. It's like drinking water in the desert, right? You want to make sure you drink water in the desert. That's basically what it is. It's like you're going through a journey in the desert. Just make sure that you pack a lot of water and continue stopping in those places where you can gather more water so you can continue walking down the desert.
That's such a beautiful analogy. I love how you explained that, because that was going to be my next question. So you just flowed right into it. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing not only what dark night of the soul is, but just also, for anyone tuning in, if they're in that situation right now, they're going through that journey wherever they are, beginning, middle, later, these are all like such valuable, like basic things. And I don't know about you, but like for me, I was completely by myself. So I was just like, what do I need to do? So it was just literally like a discovery process. Now, from what you were sharing before, because of experience as a young child, you already felt very connected. Like you felt that there was some guidance coming in from you that you recognized. Now, clearly, all of us have guidance, but I don't know whether we're tuning into it to saying that, wow, I'm actually getting supported from something that I'm not able to understand. And I know for me, that was part of the journey of trusting that inner voice, right? Because I've always led and made decisions from my head instead of from like my heart. And so that was a really big piece of it. And so I love what you were sharing in your story, because you use this word, I think that's what you said, where you're like, you got activated. And so I just wanted to share with people, like, what Jakara is saying in that is really, it's like these different points where something in you, and you all can hear the sirens, so that will probably tell you that this is very important information.
Listen well. Yes.
Listen well. But just about how, even though you were going through something incredibly traumatic, and I would never say that I know what it is like to be in that situation, any kind of violence or domestic violence or any of those situations. But for you to be able to say that, he, despite what he was doing, he was actually working on himself, and by him working on himself, he was actually offering you things at the same time that were actually positive, in addition to everything else that was going on. So for you to be able to recognize that, wow, there are different things that are being offered to me, and it's coming to my awareness now, I can take that and do something. And so for you, you're like, okay, number one, I do kind of need to end this relationship. Like, this is toxic, not for me. I can't. Like, you were ready to make that decision, because truthfully, it takes, people any amount of time to be in that situation when they're ready to say, I'm ready. I need to get out, and I need to now just kind of figure out like what is going on with me. And I think it's so important to remember to be like, this journey, when you say dark night of the soul, not only is it incredibly important, it is actually quite selfish, in the sense that you really do need to focus on yourself. You
Yes.
need to take that time and that energy, because life, as we know, will have 50 things that we will get pulled into, but you have to make yourself the priority. And for you, Jakar, to be like, listen, I'm picking myself up. I'm going to go move to this place, small place, and just kind of take some time to figure myself out. I mean, that is huge. And for anybody listening, it's like, there is an element of, you're going to get guidance. Are you going to be listening to that? Are you going to be tuning into it? Like, follow what Jakar was saying. Like, even if that just means that you're starting out and all you can figure out is, I'm just going to go hang out in nature for a few minutes, or okay, fine, I'll just like write down something, like whatever's in my head, let me just write it out. Like, take little steps. And then, kind of reiterating what Jakar was saying, is like, start to find things. I mean, thankfully, in this day and age with social media, I mean, we have access to so much. And part of this podcast is also to offer you the tools through people like Jakara. Like, that's what I'm doing. It's like, okay, I didn't have a lot of these people in my journey, and I would have loved to have had them. But it's like, hey, look, there are all these resources and things that are there. See what resonates with you, see what feels right to you, and explore it. Allow yourself that place to just spend some time to really dig into this, because it's a really important journey. It is happening for a reason. And even if you can't see it right now, it's actually propelling you into your next level of growth, and just uncovering more of your authentic true self. And so I think that's what Jakara was, sharing, and that's what I'm kind of sharing. So I'm going to come back to Jakara to say that, as you started to kind of explore and do your work, and really kind of come back to like, who am I? Who am I? And who do I choose to be? Because that's a big word
Mm.
too, right? Like, who do I
Yes.
choose to be? And, when people listen to, like, when I was describing all the things that you do, and you're so gifted, you've taken on so many things. um I wanted to kind of ask you about some specific ones, because people might not have heard of some of these things. And clearly we cannot go into all of them because Jakar is like super talented. We need to bring her back. So I was just going to ask, for example, one of the things that you talked about before was this trauma bonding, trauma response. And I think that a lot of people kind of like consciously, unconsciously don't even realize that they're in these patterns. And something that you do, which I think is connected to this, is that spiritual response therapy. Am I correct? And if you don't
Yes.
mind sharing a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So I am very passionate about spiritual response therapy. So if I get a little passionate here, you'll know why. You know why. I'm letting you know in advance. But yeah, spiritual response therapy is a energy healing modality that uses the pendulum. I use the pendulum and chart in certain charts. There's specific charts that were created by this wonderful man who passed away in 2015, and his name is Robert Detzler. And back in the 80s, he was introduced to this other therapy called response therapy. So that was the original one, but that was introduced to him by this couple who they were social workers themselves, and they were using this to alongside with a pendulum to gather information from the subconscious mind for people to help. So that they were kind of, it was kind of more mind oriented, and he was introduced to that because he was a unity pastor, and he was interested in helping, his um, the people that came to him and asked him for questions, and and were struggling with things. But him being a unity pastor, he was very gifted. He had a lot of intuitive gifts himself. And as he started working with a pendulum, he started connecting with the Akashic Records and started connecting with the guidance of spirit in regards to expanding this therapy into a spiritual one. And he went back to the original people that introduced him to the therapy, and they weren't as open to it because again they were more mind oriented than because again they were social workers, so they were not really interested in that. But he was guided very strongly to continue this path. So then he started creating his own pathway with these with spiritual response. So this modality has been around since the 80s, and this is what I find so fascinating is that I didn't even know about it for many years. But the fact that it's been around, and he went around the world to teach this modality to many people and other churches. Now, something happened with, I'm not really sure what happened, where he was basically discouraged to use this modality at the church. So he had to separate himself and create his own nonprofit. So he created some alongside with his wife something called it's an organization that is called Spiritual Response Association. So it's a nonprofit organization that basically was created to support the the spread the spreading out of this therapy. And so what I loved about this modality when I was introduced to it in the metaphysical communities, for those of us who are interested, if you're here, you probably have heard about metaphysics. You're probably connected to the idea of the science and spirituality being really interconnected. That's really what metaphysics is about. It's about questioning the why things happen, right? And so when it comes down to this type of work, there's not a lot of regulation that's happening in these modalities. Not that they're not, but not all of them are. What I really loved about this specific one is that the SRA, or the Spiritual Response Association, really does try to keep a certain standard of how they're going to teach it, how the teachers are going to teach it, and how the teachers are going to make sure that the people that are going to share this modality with others are going to be allowed, right? Like what are the different things that you have to cover and make sure that this student is actually able to do, to be able to say, okay, yes, you can get your certificate and go. So that was something that really pulled me into them, because we do live in a world where, people do appreciate you doing some extra work to make sure that you're doing the right thing, right, and that you're getting certified. But then also the intention behind it of trying to make sure that things are in integrity, and that's a huge thing for me. So with spiritual response, the reason why I'm sharing this is because of the background of what it is. I feel it's very grounded. It's a very grounded type of energy healing, and at the same time, it's grounded and ethereal at the same time. It's like etheric and grounded at the same time. So it's really great. And so basically, this particular modality helps me access the connection to my higher self. So the first thing that I do is that I connect to my higher self. I open my records, I connect to my higher self, and I check one of the things that I love about this modality is that I check percentages. I am checking percentages alongside with spirit, and I'm getting percentages as, okay, am I connected 100%? If I'm not, then why? So I can start researching that and clearing whatever I need to clear and make sure that I'm 100% connected, but not only connected, but there's no ego involved. So I want to backtrack a little bit. The reason why this is important for me is because when I first got introduced to the Akashic Records, I started using the pathway prayer, which is a beautiful, I love, I think it's beautiful to use that prayer, the pathway prayer with Linda Howe. And I was getting information, and I was doing readings for people, and they were successful. However, there was always this feeling that something was missing for me. And that's what spiritual response does for me, is that it gives me that sense of, okay, I'm getting that level of integrity, perfection. Like, I know that when I do a clearing for somebody, and as I'm done and I'm asking questions to spirit, I am getting 100% connection. And then if I'm not, then I get the opportunity to get that answer and to check what needs to be cleared that I haven't seen or I haven't realized at the moment, and then get those intuitive hits at that moment. So that's one thing that I love about the modality. So I'm just gonna kind of walk you through what it would happen, right, in a session. So when people come to me, they're coming because obviously you're struggling with something, either a relationship, you're maybe struggling with finding out your purpose, or you found your purpose, but you're struggling with making the decision to take action, because there could be some things in the subconscious mind. And then also for me, for people who have had trauma, for me, that's where spiritual response therapy has been so powerful. It's like to really help me release the trauma at the subconscious level, so then I'm not running with that program from the in the background. So that's where I loved, and addressing it at the spiritual level, right? Now I'm gonna be very honest with you here, Vanita. And I'm going to tell you that I use spiritual response therapy alongside with other therapies as well. And that's one thing that I recommend to people when they come to me, especially if you come from a trauma experience, that you make sure that you're also addressing things at the mind with thought processes, right? Like cognitive therapy or EMDR, something that's going to help really align you, right? So that you can have that dance with spirit. So spirit clears the programs, and then you do your part to really reprogram your mind, right? Whatever it is that you're going to do at the conscious, because we're addressing the subconscious, but at the conscious, because sometimes the subconscious has kind of created that pathway, that neural pathway for us, then it kind of is already in the conscious. So then we have to work at the conscious, right? And make sure that we're saying positive things about ourselves. And when we're using the word I am, understanding that the I am is a very powerful thing. We want to say something positive about ourselves after the I am statement, right? Those things is like really working towards that alongside with a therapy like spiritual response therapy can really help ignite people and bring a lot of freedom to people's lives. And so the therapy is basically clearing programs. And when I mean by programs, I just want to give you an example, and I'll show you. I always show this to people because I think that the visual, and then for those of you who are listening, but I'm going to give you the visual of, imagine in your mind that there's this baggie, right? There's this baggie, and this baggie is an experience, and it could be from this lifetime or another lifetime. It's all stored in the Akashic Records, right? So you have this baggie, and inside this baggie, you have people that were involved in the situation. You have the actual energies involved, right? The energies, whatever, whatever, or things that were said, words that created energies, right? And then you have also the type of programming, right? That was created at that moment. And then what happens is that if it's not addressed or healed at that moment, or sometimes it's not meant to be healed right away, sometimes it's meant to stay because you're meant to go through a specific situation on a lifetime, then it gets, imagine that little baggie gets, closed up and then placed in a little place where all the other baggies of all of your experiences are stored, right? And then, so not all programs are going to be bad. Some programs are good programs, they're positive. Some of them are negative. Some of them are negative, but they're meant to stay for your lessons until you learn your lesson. Once you learn your lesson, because your soul will know this, then most likely you're probably going to be called to do some sort of healing. You're going to be in this moment of like receiving these intuitive hits. Like this little inner voice is going to tell you, yeah, I think I'm over this. Like I really am really ready to move forward. So at that moment, you're gonna seek some sort of healing modality. Some people end up with SRT, some people end up with other hypnotherapy and all these other modalities, because there's so many modalities out there. But the people that come to me, of course, they're coming because they know their higher self guided them to me, because there's programs that need to be cleared. So what we do is that I connect to my higher self, then I connect to your higher self, and your higher self, really, you are the one in charge, tells my higher self, okay, these are the programs that we need to clear. And all I'm doing is reflecting that back to you by finding the information through the charts and with the pendulum, and then letting you know, oh, let this explains your situation, because this happened, this program was from this or another lifetime, whatever lifetime it was, and these people were involved, and these energies were involved, and then that's it, and we clear it, and then it's done. Then we throw away the baggie, and we send all of the energies, we transmute it, send it to the light, and then guess what? You feel better. So and then the idea is, after that is, and then I really want to be very clear here. Again, I cannot be as clear about this as possible, and I say this to everyone, to all my clients, to everyone that comes to me. You are dancing with spirit. You're co-creating with spirit. You are dancing. You're creating this beautiful dance with spirit, and you're doing this cha-cha, whatever dance you want to. If you were thinking maybe salsa, whatever it is that you want to dance with spirit, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are part of that dance. So spirit will come in and will help you, but then we also put our part. We do our part, right? And whether we decide to do our part or not in certain aspects, it's up to us. Sometimes there's going to be a moment where spirit does recommend, yeah, please dance with me, because there's some co-creation here. And sometimes spirit will be like, okay, this is clear, goodbye, and then everything just kind of opens up, and then you're free to do whatever to continue. So there could be two aspects here that we can be working with. I feel like for those of us who have been through very deep traumatic events, there's a little bit of a dance that we have to do with spirit. Like, oh, okay, well, let me work on myself here, and then let me do this, and let me do that. And then spirit will come through and help us clear the programs as we continue to do. And another thing that I wanted to say too, we work like onions. We work in layers. Sometimes, especially if you've been through traumatic events, you're going to go through one layer, because imagine trying to process everything at once. That would be too overwhelming, first of all. So you go through one layer first, we clear that, and sometimes people come back to me later after a month or 2 months, because they're ready. They already integrated the healing, and now they're ready for the next layer, to address the next layer. So it's all about really paying attention to our intuition with this, and connecting to that. But I kind of digress with your question about what SRT is. And SRT is basically just a healing modality that helps clear the programs from your subconscious mind, that will help you shift not only the energy, but also your outcome, your not your outcome, but your outlook on things. It will give you a different perspective. You'll be able to see the bigger picture of what's really happening, especially because we're tapping into the Akashic Records. We're tapping into past lives. We're tapping into parallel lives. We're tapping into different dimensions. We're tapping into parallel universes. I mean, my goodness, you are a absolute amazing being who is multi-dimensional. I mean, This life is just one little piece of your experience as a soul. You carry a lot more experiences. That's how big you are as a soul. So that's what I love about SRT is that I am able to tap into all these different lifetimes and clear whatever needs to be cleared, and it's fun. It's really fun and beautiful, and also I just love to see the life changing uh just outcome for people as well, as I see them integrating, as I see my clients integrating their, all of the changes. It's beautiful and so humbling, and I could not see myself doing anything else in my life than doing this type of work.
Oh my God, that's so amazing, Jakar. And thank you for going into all that detail because honestly, I've heard you talk about it. I've come into your sessions, but honestly, I don't know of anybody else that I know of that was doing this that you have showcased. So I really wanted to bring you on so that you could kind of really explain in detail. And I love how this kind of also connects back to like, how when you're talking about programming and things like that, and also operating out of our wounds, like that's something that you talked about. I mean, all of this is part of that conversation because, we are just basically created by a bunch of experiences. And then we just kind of repeat the experiences because we don't know anything else. And it's almost like when you're ready and you recognize that there's a pattern that's no longer working for you, that you need to break. I mean, let's be honest, it's very challenging to do it on your own. I know that
Yes.
some of us, when we didn't have the tools, somehow we were guided and we figured it out, knocking our head in many different places. um,
Yes.
but that's what I love about this, is really offering people who are listening in to say that, look, this is available. If it resonates with you and you want to give it a try, like, get a hold of Jakara and say, hey, this could be something that would work for me. And if it's not her, find something else. But that's the point. We're just sharing these beautiful, amazing tools. And you can tell how passionate Jakara is about this one, right? And believe me, I've popped into her session and it's amazing because she'll be using the pendulum and she'll like go into all these percentages. It's actually really kind of cool because I'm like, ooh, what does that mean? Oh, she's clearing more and now it's going to go to 100%. Ooh, that's kind of exciting. So it's very interactive, which I really kind of enjoy. Now, I understand a private session obviously would be different, but then when you've been doing it on your lives and there are a bunch of us that come in and you're doing it that way, it's still really fascinating to sort of like hear and see you work, and to see that how powerful it is, and that you can pull in all these different tools that you have and kind of combine them with your work. And listen, there's so much more stuff that I want to talk to you about, but I feel like we'd be here for like 4 hours. So I'm just letting everyone know that Jakara has a lot of stuff that she does. And for sure, I'm going to have to bring her back so that we can have more detailed conversations, so that, we can just chat about all these amazing things. I wanted to ask her about, her shamanic work, and she does like plant medicine work, and medi painting. There's like so many things. So obviously, like I said before, all of this information of course is going to be in the descriptor, so you can go look her up, check out all the stuff she does. She's pretty active on social media, so definitely try to connect with her there. But I wanted to kind of move into a place, even though we have so many other things we could talk about. I wanted to see if we could do a little showcase, a sample of Jakara's gifts. So if
Yeah.
something that you would like to share with us as a collective message, whatever's coming through, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. And before I start that, I just wanted to say also to kind of zero in on what you said about the modality. Of course, I'm very passionate about SRT, and this is a modality that has worked for me, and I love. But I also want to invite your audience to really stay open to combining different elements in their journey. So like if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I feel like I need more than one thing, and I maybe I go to a Reiki practitioner, but I feel like I need more. Listen to that intuition and try to incorporate different things. It's okay to mix and match and find that solution that is going to be perfect for you, because that's how unique you are. You are as unique as your fingerprint. Your energetic fingerprint, your energetic print is unique to you, and it's okay for you to need different different ratios of different things that will work for you and help you find that balance. So I just kind of wanted to share that because I feel like it's important to keep our minds open and not be so definitive in just one thing, right? So
100%. Thank you so much for saying that, Jakar. And, thank you for looping that back because, that's what this show is about. Like every episode is going to be, these, healers like you who are coming in who have many different modalities. And it's just about introducing people to things that they might not have heard about or, experienced before. But it's to say, oh my goodness, look, I have like 10 different people, maybe one of them might be a match for me, or maybe it's a mix and match of like 3 or 4 people, so it's
yes,
really kind of what you're saying. It's really about just sharing this information so that people have just knowledge of the tools and resources, and then you can be like, okay, what feels right, what's going to work for me, let me custom create my own menu of healing and
yes.
whatever that looks like. So thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel it's important to remind ourselves of that because um, sometimes we forget that sometimes we can go black and white on things, and it's good to go with all the colors of the rainbow. Um, okay, so I'm gonna call upon the archangels right now, and I'm gonna ask the archangels to come forth. I'm gonna ask them to see if they have anything to share with your audience at this moment, for those who are going to be drawn to this space, drawn to this conversation, those who are needing some answer at this moment. I'd like for you to share. So I got Archangel Raguel that's coming forward, and let's see, I'm checking on my charts here. I have some charts with the archangels, and I have certain information that's written here, and sometimes they want to communicate this way. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now, Spirit and Archangel Raguel want to download a healing for relationship balance and peace and inner peace. So what I want to invite you, you Vanita, too, if you want to do this alongside with your audience. I just want to invite you to just close your eyes, and we're gonna take a couple of deep breaths together. So take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. Take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. Take another deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. And one last breath. Take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. And at this moment, I just want to invite you to just focus your attention on your breath. Just feel into your breath. Just notice the sensation of your breath as it goes in and out of your nostrils without changing anything. And at this moment, I'm seeing a beautiful light blue light coming through. Just visualize a light blue light just coming in and entering into your nostrils. Just allow that beautiful light blue light to come in and expand into your body, calming your nervous system, calming you, calming your mind, calming your body. With every breath you take, you receive this beautiful light blue energy that starts to expand and it creates a wonderful feeling of inner peace. If there's any thoughts or anything that's in your mind, just gently acknowledge it and focus back onto your breath, focus back into your body. And now I just want to invite you to focus your attention at the bottom of your spine and just feel the sensation of the bottom of your spine, and consciously, without changing your breath, Just consciously send your breath to the bottom of your spine, allowing yourself to become even more relaxed, even more receptive, even more open. And if you feel like you're open already, open up a little bit more. Allow yourself to open up with your breath, feeling ready to receive the healing, to bring your essence back into balance. We're first going to bring you back into balance. And now focus your attention at the bottom of your feet and feel into that beautiful presence of your feet, that relationship that you have with Mother Earth through your feet. And visualize yourself grounding, feeling anchored on this earth through your feet. You feel even more held and seen and accepted as you are. And now I just want to invite you to focus your attention 4 fingers above your head and visualize this beautiful crown shaped on as a lotus flower. It starts to light up, and this beautiful white light infused with that blue light, that light blue light, starts to open up, and you notice this golden light coming from beyond the sun, coming down towards your crown, making its way towards your third eye, the area right in the middle of your eyebrows. This beautiful golden light continues to go down towards your throat, continuing to go down towards your heart, continuing to go down towards your solar plexus, the area right above your belly, continuing to go down towards your sacral, the area right below your belly, all the way down towards your root, the bottom of your spine, continuing to go down towards both of your legs, making its way down towards the bottom of your feet. And now this golden light has made its way all the way to the bottom of your feet, infusing this beautiful loving energy into Mother Earth. You feel even more held and more grounded. Now that you are balanced, we're going to infuse that beautiful light blue even further out into your energy field, creating the energetic essence of openness and peace. In your relationships with yourself and with others. Shifting the negative thoughts of yourself into positive thoughts. and in turn shifting the negative thoughts of others into positive thoughts, and in turn creating the space for healthy and loving relationships in your life. We're now downloading the essence of respect, respect of self, and respect of others to bring harmony in your relationships with self and others. And also downloading the ability and the openness and the invitation to stay in a place of observation of all that's happening around you, from a place of neutrality and non-judgment. And now, slowly, I want to invite you to become aware of your surroundings. You may start moving your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes, feeling ready to express wonderful, harmonious relationships in your life. Okay. I hope you're feeling
Wow.
good and relaxed. That was Archangel Raguel wanted to come forth, and I work with the archangels, and they tend to want to apply a lot of healing for. So this was really beautiful.
Oh my goodness. That was so amazing, Jakara. Truly. I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to come back out and like actually have a conversation with you after that?
Oh my gosh.
It was
Well, I'm gonna
so
pull a card
beautiful.
for your audience too.
Okay.
So for those of you who are seeking, your seekers, your people who are looking for answers in your life, and you're probably wondering, what is it that I need to do next at this moment? I want to really invite you to. So the cards I pulled some from you. You have this deck, the Gateway of Light Activation from Kyle Gray. I really love this oracle. And it's interesting because one of the things that came up for your audience, or those of you who are listening to this in the future, later in the future, and this applies to you. So this is timeless. This message is timeless. So one of the things that is happening for a lot of your audience is that there's third third eye activation in these conversations. So a lot of third eye activation, and being able to see clearly just through being connected to these conversations. So understand that when you're listening to Vanita and the people that are coming here, that you're also being activated just by being in the presence of the energy and the voice, listening to the voice of those who are sharing their stories and sharing their knowledge. So stay open to receive those activations, because they're going to happen naturally for you when you come in and stop, right? Because we're kind of stopping in these little portals that we create of podcasts and YouTube channels and all these different portals that are created for us to nourish ourselves. So when you come here to nourish yourself, just know that you're being activated to go back within yourself and start really activating that clear vision, that clarity, that clairvoyance, that clairsentience, that all of those claries are going to be really, they're going to be happening as all of the episodes come down the road. Not only this one, but not only the past and this one, but also in the future. And then also, this is your sacred space. This is a sacred place for you, for all of you who are tuning into this space. This is, before you come in to listen to this podcast, take a couple of deep breaths and get yourself, in that center, so that when you come in here, you really receive everything that you need and you really get the nourishment that you need. Because there's a lot of healing that's happening as well for a lot of you internally. So the sacral is also being, and this also applies to you, Vanita, the sacral is also being healed in this journey for you, because you're connecting to that creativity. But in turn, as you are connecting to that creativity and you're healing your own sacral, you're also activating this, propelling this sacral healing out into the ethers, into those who come, who are magnetized to the space, and want to receive the messages here. Those of you who are listening now, you're also receiving this healing. So as Vanita works on herself, you're also receiving that healing at the same time. So that's beautiful. That's how you're serving in this journey. And the other thing that I'm seeing here is that there's a lot of upgrades that are happening for all of you. So again, everything here that is happening in this podcast, and as you continue to listen to the podcast in the future, there's going to be a lot of upgrades for you. So interesting. The three chakras that are important for your listeners here are going to be the solar plexus, the sacral, and the third eye, which makes a lot of sense because the sacral is the place of our power, where all our power is stored, and the solar plexus, the sacral is that, but the solar plexus is the one that helps us make the right actions, that take the actions that are going to take us to where we need to go in regards to our healing and in our spiritual growth. And the third eye, of course, is that inner vision, that being able to connect to that inner guidance, right? That will help us get to that next step. So all of these three chakras are basically being activated and integrated, and I'm hearing a lot of downloads. There's going to be a lot of downloads, a lot of activations, and a lot of healing in those three. So yeah, that's the message that Spirit wanted to share for
Wow. Oh my
everyone.
goodness, Jakara. So amazing. This session has just been so powerful. I mean, seriously, you and I could just keep talking and we'd have like, another 2 hours of chat, which we know we can't do today. But for sure, for everyone that's listening, I will be bringing Jakara back. But I just also wanted to mention that, uh, you know, exactly what she's saying. There's so much amazing information. If all you did was just come in and just listen, that's all you need to do. Just be present and listen. And I'll be honest with you, that meditation clearing activation that you did, I will personally be going back to listen to that often. So I'm just letting the audience know that when this does come out, make sure to save this one because that is really powerful. And that's just a tiny sampling of Jakara and her meditations. And, like I've said before, all her information will be in the description. So you can go find her and follow her and, be part of all the magic that she creates and puts out into this universe. So I'm so grateful that you joined me today and that we got to co create this beautiful space and all this amazing conversation together. And just wanted to thank you so, so much for coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to continue our connection. And of course, I am so grateful for those of you who are listening. Just if you feel inclined to re-listen to that meditation, definitely do, because it felt very guided. Spirit really wanted this for you. So if you felt that in your heart, make sure that you go back and re-listen to it as many times as you need. This is the timeline. There's no time, that doesn't exist in the spirit realm. So this can be valid for you in the future if you need to go back and re-listen to it in the future as well. So
Love it so much. Thank you so much, Jakara. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I look forward to catching all of you on the next episode.